today's superstar reader is Vee Ram.
Hi everybody, how you guys going? Hope that all is well and that everybody is keeping safe and taking your time to learn something every day. That's what life is about. It's a learning process. Alright, now my name is Vee Ram and I'm a chutney soca artist from Trinidad and Tobago, and wherever I go I always represent our culture. Alright, singing chutney and soca songs for the guys that I perform for, whether it's in Trinidad or out of Trinidad. But nevertheless, today I have a special surprise for you guys, and I hope that everybody enjoys it. Now, it's not me singing chutney or soca, alright? It's actually me telling you guys a story, which is a very special story because it brings back a lot of childhood memories. When I was a little boy, this was one of my favorite stories to tell, and it's entitled Little Red Riding Hood, and I hope that everybody who's listening to this story loves it. Alright, so Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time there was a little girl who lived in a village near a forest. Alright, a forest is a place with a lot of trees and animals and stuff like that. So she lived near the forest, and whenever she went out, this little girl always wore a little red riding cloak. Alright, that's why everybody called her Little Red Riding Hood. Alright, so she wore a red riding cloak, and everybody in her village called her Little Red Riding Hood. So one morning, Miss Little Red Riding Hood asked her mom if she could go visit her grandmom. Alright, now it was a while since she actually saw her grandmother, so that was one of the reasons why she wanted to go and visit her. Alright, so her mother said, "Dear daughter, that's a really, really good idea. But before you go, I want to pack a nice basket of goodies for my mom," which is Little Red Riding Hood's grandmom. Alright, so when the basket was ready, the little girl put on her red cloak and kissed her mom goodbye. "Goodbye, mommy, love you." Alright, and then she took the basket. So before she left, however, her mom warned her, "Remember to go straight to grandma's house, right? And don't dawdle, don't linger along the way. Don't do anything like that. Please, and please don't talk to strangers." The woods, that's the forest, is a very dangerous place. So Little Red Riding Hood replied, "Don't worry, mommy, I will be careful." So as the story progresses, Little Red Riding Hood goes into the forest, makes her way towards her grandma's house, but notices some lovely flowers in the woods and forgets what she promised her mom. One of the promises she told her mom was that she won't stop anywhere whilst going through the forest, because the forest is dangerous. It has a lot of dangerous things. Alright, so she forgot her promise and she stopped to pick a few flowers. She stopped to watch the butterflies fly over the flowers, here, there, and everywhere. She stopped to listen to the frogs croaking and then pick some more flowers. Alright, so what's happening here? She disobeyed her mom and she stopped in the forest, alright, because she was captivated by the flowers in the forest. But she also told her mom before she went into the forest that she won't stop anywhere. So let's see what happens next. Little Red Riding Hood was enjoying the warm summer day so much that she didn't notice a dark shadow approaching out of the forest behind her. What is that dark shadow? What is the shadow? Alright, now suddenly a wolf appeared beside her. Whoa, the shadow is a wolf. I hope anything doesn't happen bad to her. Alright. The wolf regrets. The wolf said to her, "What are you doing out here, little girl?" He asked in the most friendly voice he could ever ask. Alright? Little Red Riding Hood said, "I'm on my way to see my grandma." "Where does she live?" "Oh, she lives through the forest near the brook," replied Little Red Riding Hood. Then she realized how late she was and quickly excused herself, rushing down the path to her grandma's house. So she stopped in the forest, picked the flowers, looked at the frogs, looked at the butterflies, talked to the wolf, and then after talking to the wolf, then she actually realized, yo, I'm getting late, it's late, I have to go quickly to my grandma's, So after realizing how late she was, she excused herself quickly and rushed down the path to her grandma's house. Now, the wolf in the meantime took a shortcut because the wolf was up to no good. The wolf saw Little Red Riding Hood and he also saw the basket and he wanted something to eat. What did he want to eat? Oh my. So the story goes on. The wolf, a little out of breath from running, arrived at grandma's and knocked lightly at the door. Knock, knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. Now the grandma is thinking that, it's Little Red Riding Hood because she's expecting her granddaughter to come visit her. Grandma says, "Oh, thank goodness, dear. Come in, come in. I was worried sick that something had happened to you." "In the forest," said Grandma, thinking that the knock was actually from her granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood. Now, seeing that Grandma told the wolf that the door was open, the wolf let himself in, and poor Granny did not have time to say another word before the wolf gobbled her up and ate her. Nom 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 nom. Oh my, it's trouble. What will happen next? Now the wolf let out a satisfied burp and then poked through Granny's wardrobe to find a nightgown he liked. A nightgown is another name for a dress. So he's looking through Granny's wardrobe to see if he sees a dress he likes from Granny's. He's gonna be dressing up just like the grandmother to get at Little Red Riding Hood. What would happen next? Let's see. He took the dress and then he added a frilly sleeping cap for good measure and dabbed some of Granny's perfume behind his pointy ears. Now he wants to smell like Granny, he wants to put on the headwear like Granny, and he also wants to put on the same clothes like Granny because he's trying to fool Little Red Riding Hood. Let's see what happens next. A few minutes later, Little Red Riding Hood knocked on the door, knock, 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 and the wolf jumped up into the bed, Granny's bed, and pulled the covers over his nose and replied, "Who is it?" Little Red Riding Hood said, "Oh, but it's me, your granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood." The wolf replied, "Oh, how lovely. Do come in, my dear." Now, when Little Red Riding Hood entered the little cottage, she could barely recognize her grandma. Right? "Grandma, but your voice sounds so odd, so strange. What's the matter?" Little Red Riding Hood asked. Now the wolf replied, "Oh, I just had a touch of cold." He actually coughed to prove that Yeah, I had a cold. And then Little Red Riding Hood said, "But Grandma, what big ears you have?" Now the wolf replied, "The better to hear me, my darling granddaughter." Then Little Red Riding Hood said, "But Grandma, what big eyes you have?" Now the wolf replied, "The better to see you with, my dear." And then Little Red Riding Hood said, "But Grandma, what big teeth you have?" And she stood there quivering slightly because she's getting to realize, her grandma is not looking like her grandma. Her grandma is looking like the wolf she met in the forest. Alright? So the wolf replied, "The better to eat you with, my dear." Ha! And he leapt out of the bed and began to chase Little Red Riding Hood out into the woods. Now, whilst chasing Little Red Riding Hood, she realized that a person in the bed wasn't her grandma, but the hungry wolf. And she ran across the room and through the door, shouting, "Help! Help! There's a wolf after me! Help!" She screamed loudly, and it so happened that a woodsman was nearby chopping some logs and heard her cry and ran towards the cottage as fast as he could. He grabbed the wolf and made him spit out the poor grandmother. Alright, and the grandmother came out of the wolf and she was really, really surprised, and she was frazzled by the whole experience, but still in one piece. Little Red Riding Hood said, "Oh Grandma, I was scared. The wolf eat you. The wolf eat you, but nevertheless he didn't digest you. You came back from his belly." Little Red Riding Hood cried to her grandma and told her she would never speak to strangers or linger and dawdle in the forest ever again. Alright? And then her grandma replied by saying, There, child, you've learned an important lesson today. Thank goodness you shouted loud enough for this kind woodsman to hear you." And seeing that, Little Red Riding Hood promised her grandma and her mom that she won't dawdle in the forest and she won't be talking to strangers again. Everybody lived happily ever after. The end. Alright, so I hope that everybody really, really enjoyed this story I had to share. It's entitled Little Red Riding Hood, and this story goes to show you and tell you that, as a young child, you must never talk to strangers unless you know them. Alright, always listen to your parents, always listen to, the ones who are in authority, the adults. They would know better. They would guide you, and please follow them. If you disobey them, you never know, you might or possibly may come to harm. Alright, because out there's good and there's bad, and the good could do good for you, but the bad could harm you and cause danger, just like the big bad wolf. Alright, he wanted to eat Little Red Riding Hood. You don't want to be talking to strangers and they want to eat you, okay? And the moral of the story is just that. Alright, don't talk to strangers, always obey your elders, follow the rules and orders that they give, and be good children. Alright, I hope that everybody enjoyed this story, and I hope to see you guys one more time again, hopefully, and share another story with you guys. It was a pleasure, alright, to be here, alright, in front of you guys. And remember that everybody here is special. Everybody here is unique in his or her own way. We were all created by God, and He loves us equally. Everybody is entitled to be loved equally. all right, and enjoy their life equally. My name is Vee Ram, and it was a pleasure to be one of the readers. So bye.